And here is the Writer's Almanac for Monday. It's the 16th of December, 2019. It's the birthday of the woman who wrote, "For what do we live but to make sport for our neighbors and laugh at them in our turn?" The novelist Jane Austen, born in Steventon, England, 1775, grew up in a large family, 6 brothers, 1 sister. Her sister Cassandra, 3 years older, was her best friend. Neither of them ever married. Not a great deal is known about Jane Austen's life beyond the small details in her letters. There are only 2 drawings of Jane Austen. Her niece wrote of her, "Her face was rather round than long. She had a bright but not a pink color, a clear brown complexion, and very good hazel eyes. Her hair, a darkish brown, curled naturally. It was in short curls around her face. She always wore a cap." Jane Austen wrote her first novel, Eleanor and Marianne, sometime in the 1790s, an epistolary novel that many years later was published as Sense and Sensibility. But at first she put it aside. She wrote a second novel, First Impressions, which she completed at the age of 21, with the famous first line, "It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife." It was published years later under the title Pride and Prejudice. And then she wrote a third novel, Susan, which was eventually retitled Northanger Abbey. That was in 1803. For the next few years, Jane Austen was relatively unproductive. Her father left the ministry, moved the whole family to Bath. It was a difficult adjustment for her, leaving the house she'd lived in her whole life. A few years later, her father died, and Jane and Cassandra and their mother had no income because the property was passed down to the sons, and there was no work for women either. So finding a husband was really the only chance of financial stability. But Jane had only one marriage proposal years before from Harris Bigg Wither, who Jane had known since they were children. He was the brother of friends. Mr. Wither was a large man, not attractive, awkward. He stuttered. The two of them did not have much in common, nor did they know each other very well, but he needed a wife, she needed financial stability, and he lived just a few miles away, so she accepted. But that night, Jane Austen went to bed. She couldn't sleep. She got up in the morning, and she announced that she could not marry Mr. Wither. But then soon after Mr. Wither's proposal was rejected, Sense and Sensibility was published in 1811. It was a success, got good reviews, and it sold well. 2 years later, Pride and Prejudice did even better. Mansfield Park came out in 1814. And 3 years later, perhaps from Addison's disease or Hodgkin's lymphoma, Jane Austen died at the age of 41. Here's a poem for today by Claudia Soraya, The Golden Era. Wealth was measured in cream for coffee and chicken for soup. The days of the rich were made of imported chocolate and hairspray. The days of the poor were of cold tea and thin air. It was the time when God was taking orders in a restaurant and delivered steak and fondue to only one part of the town. On the town streets, the saints were walking without shoes. It was a time when no one talked, but everyone clapped and sang. We found out we were happy from the news. It was a time when no one told us what would happen, but everyone knew. The Golden Era, a poem by Claudia Soraya from Nothing Important Happened Today, published by Broadstone Books and used by permission here on the Writer's Almanac. Be well, do good work, and keep in touch.